Hi guys, welcome back to another one of our videos. I know it's been a long time since we've made another video, but it's the winter months and all, and I'm not big on freezing my carcass off outside and getting wet, as this is very wet weather in the winter. So I decided to build myself the Jeep Wrangler G6 SCX10 kit. I started to build it as scale, but came into a few snags and complications along the way, and I basically built it to be a trail runner. So there it is, the G6 already built. I'll discuss my mods and applications that I did to it, and beside that is my older SCX10, which I rebuilt over the winter as well, and I'll be using the old SCX10 as reference for the new one. As I went along in this build, I tried to keep it as scale as I could, but the weight of the vehicle just got heavier and heavier as I went along, and I found the 1.9-inch tires could not support the weight of the vehicle anymore, and I had to move myself up to something beefier. So I went with the mud tires, 2.2-inch, and I changed the trim scale from black to a metallic green, but I kept the body white, just like in the picture on the box. I'm just going to talk about the body for right now, as the light system is wired right into the shell, and it needs to be disassembled to move the shell from the body, and that's a bit time consuming. So we're just talk about what I have going on right now. What I'd like to talk about is this thing here is the Gearhead Scale Trail Torch LED light bar, and you can get them waterproof, and the LEDs are quite bright. When you go to mount it on to this particular design, you don't get any adapters to mount it to the frame. So I had to come up with some plastic parts that I got off an old SCX10 that I had, and I basically had to drill holes and configure it to fit onto here. Once I had it fitted onto here, I found that the windshield no longer fit because this was sitting too high. So what I did is I trimmed the bottom of the windshield, and I made it so it just sits in like a pocket, so I'd be able to drill the top and put my mounts in. The interior panel, I tried to make it my way. So what I did is I took some Testors paint, and as you can see, I hand painted all my little parts and instrument cluster and the seats and everything. That's all been painted by hand, and the gas tank here gives, with the paint not sitting on there just so, gives it a nice flare, I think, to it. I kept the decal design pretty much simplistic, as too much doesn't look good. So I just put on just enough to make it look like what it's supposed to look like on the box somewhat. And pretty much the only thing I changed is I put the Recon G6 Challenge sticker on the back. I think it looks pretty good. Hiding wires on top of this car was somewhat of a challenge, because you can see that it's red and black and it sticks out like a sore thumb. So what I did is I put some green tie wraps on it, followed the wire down the side of the frame as much as possible, drilled a inconspicuous little hole here, just enough to pop my plug through, and then I repainted it metallic green again, so now you can't even see the wire. I configured the battery system somewhat unique. I'll get into that. There's actually 4 batteries in this car that makes it work. That's right, 4. One of the batteries is to run this LED light, because it can't run off 7.4 volts. It has to run off 6 volts. I'll be showing you that when I get into the shell and take it off. And I did incorporate an off-on switch onto it, which means I can make it come on and go off on the fly as I wish. So I guess now we'll talk a little bit of the front bumper. There's nothing too fancy about it. I bought all my stuff from RC 4-wheel drive, and that's the heavy duty bumper here, and these are actually little metal shackles. And then I picked myself up the worn winch, and it actually works. It's kind of nifty, actually. I'll give you a demo of that. I've got the Warren winch in working order, and I purchased myself a pull pal, and it's just basically just a little cheap metal, I guess, anchor, and you can hook it to rocks or log or sticks or anything you want. But when you go to hook up the hook to it, it doesn't quite go through the hole like it's intended to be. Perhaps if you use one of these shackles here on the end of it, it would work much better. But for a workaround, I just wrapped it through and then hooked it on. I'll show you how far the cable comes out to give you an idea how much line you get on the spool. It goes out about 3 feet, roughly. When you get to the end of its travel, you'll know because it'll start spinning the other way to pull the line back in again. And this, my RC weighs about a good 8 pounds with all the batteries and everything that I have in it and all the metal parts. So it's pulling it quite nicely, actually. So I glued my lights into the shell itself, and you can see right here how I have everything hooked up. This is for the bar light, and these are for the, well, the signal lights are supposed to be here. I just turned them in the fog lights and I siliconed them in, and you got the headlights in, and everything works. All my electronics that I need to do any work on, if necessary, are in the back of my Savex case, which is my servo on the front. And I reamed out some holes on the inside, and I put rubber grommets through, and then I pulled my wires through and siliconed it. Then I used double-sided tape, but only stuck the tape on one side. And this right here is my RC Rock Armor rear bumper with LED holes for the brake lights in the back. And I bought this because it had a nice little mounting plate on the top. So the reason that this is loose is because right here, these are 4 AA batteries, and they run up to my switch in the front, which turns my bar light on. So these are actually, they're not rechargeable, they can be changed, but from my understanding, the bar light takes very minimal amount of power to work. And so I made it like this so I can flip it up and work on it as necessary. Once the shell is on, it presses down on top of the servo box, and it keeps it from moving around, and it works out quite nice. I went and bought myself the DX4S transmitter so I can have more options with my crawling ability, because I want to take my Wraith in the future and turn it into 4-wheel steering. So I decided with the more models it can hold and the better the menu selection, it would work well for this. So it actually has a 4-channel receiver inside of it. And this inside here is the Holmes Hobby Trailmaster Pro BR-XL brushed ESC, and it's actually waterproof, but I ballooned everything because is anything really waterproof? As I went along in my build, I got so much metal and heavy parts in this, it just got heavier and heavier as I went along. So I decided it required 2 batteries and able to have a half decent runtime out of it due to the weight factor. And so I incorporated this like split plug in here. It's sort of modified and homemade, and it's put in, and I have 2 5,000 milliamp batteries, one on each side. I stuck them up on their edge so it would fit on the shell nicely, and I inverted the running boards. They're on actually upside down. I stuck them upside down on purpose because the batteries seem to sit nice and flush on it, and it actually gives the vehicle a little more clearance from here to here. a little more ground clearance to go over the sticks and stuff like that. For the motor, I went for the Holmes Hobby Trailmaster Pro 540 brushed electric motor with a 27 turn motor. What makes this motor unique to the other brushed motors is the can is actually somewhat sealed, so when you go through the mud and all that crap that would plug up your brushes, it's a sealed can inside, so the mud can't actually get into the brushes, as far as I know. And as I went along in the build, it just required more and more metal parts, so I figured it's pushing more metal, it's got to have tougher gears. So the spur gear is your standard spur gear, but I put a stainless steel one in there. And my transmission gears inside are all been steel, and my axle gears are steel. Everything is steel in it. I decided to go for a Savix servo because I seem to have pretty good luck with them. My high-tech ones, they always seem to, they just fizzle out and they quit working after a while. I found the SA 1230 SG model, which is extra tall. It's in my Wraith, and I found it's one of the toughest servos out there, and it puts out most ounce torques than any of the servos out there. It does 500 ounce of torque, which is amazing. This thing can actually, it can actually break the ends of your tie rods off if you get them binded in a rock. It'll snap it off. Or you'll bend your servo horn. I've done that, and I have a heavy-duty aluminum one on also. I found that the clearance issue, I had clearance issues with the front. You can see when I push it down, it comes right up to the top. This battery plate is supposed to be in the front to the back. And I had a problem mounting this on because I wanted to use the top plate for the small battery here that works the winch. So what I had to do to make it fit is I had to take the battery mount and install it in backwards because I didn't want to do any cutting or grinding. To give you an idea what I'm talking about with my putting my battery tray in backwards for this car, is this is my old SEX10 here, and the battery is in properly, but you can see the mount right here. You can see where the servo horn is here, and I had to actually grind all of this away to keep it so when it goes up and bottoms out, it does not hit the battery mount. Well, that just totally weakens the structure of the mount altogether. A lot of people have done this mod on the internet, and I suggest it's okay for this one, but it wasn't okay for that one because you want the highest strength possible.